the next thing that we are going to be doing is we're going to be creating our collectible. So far we've got two types of enemies. We've got a point system working, we've got health working. It's looking like a good game so far. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to move things over a little bit, because I want to make a little bit of room for this. This is a longer process because I'm going to give you probably about 3 or 4 things to actually do within this time period. Okay, so what we are going to add in, we're going to add in a game block here. So on game update. Now don't worry about, it says there 500 milliseconds. We'll change that later. And we're going to now create the sprite. So if I click on sprites, get this here, set my sprite. Throw that in, and we are going to rename this. So I'm going to click on the My Sprite drop down and click on rename variable, and we're going to call this collect and click OK. And we are then going to say, right, of sprite, well, we'll draw it in a moment. Of kind, well, it's not technically a player, it's not a projectile. We could call it food. Fine, you know, food gives us health, power-ups. And it's definitely not an enemy. But what I am going to do is I'm going to show you this. We're going to create a new kind of sprite, and we're just going to call it collectible. And when you do that, essentially it makes then another sort of kind for us that we can use in the future. So if we wanted to make more than one collectible, so if we have a special collectible that will give us, say, 2 health up, we can obviously put it within this category. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is you're going to draw our sprite. So I'm going to just click on this, single click, and you can see now I've got my drawing panel up. So I'm going to start by using a circle, and let's see how this goes. Okay, not great. So obviously I made a bit of a mistake there. My circle's not big enough, so I'm just going to erase this, and we're going to start again from a slightly different location. Don't worry if when you do this you find that, you know, things don't work out as you best intend, as happens with me a lot of the time. This is all about playing and developing. So let's have a look. Try and get it roughly to the center here. Okay, so I want to move this. In fact, do I need to move it? No, I probably don't need to move it. It's fine. So I'm going to fill the color. So I'm going to click my fill bucket, and there you are. So I've got a lovely orange, yellow circle. And what I could do is I'm going to use my drawing tool now, and we are going to draw almost like a heart type shape. Okay, so I don't know if that is a heart shape to you, but it looks kind of hearty shape to me. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to put 1 or 2 other bits on it. There we are. Okay, so I'm happy with my collectible. Now, if you can't remember what your collectible looked like, have a look back in your planning section, which we did in lesson 1. So you should have a rough idea of what you wanted to draw. Now, I'm going to click on done with that, and obviously that is set. Now, the next thing we're going to do is get it to pick a random position to move. So initially when I was going to do this, I wanted to try and have it so that it would appear on a certain part of the screen, and then I was going to get it to move. But I thought, well, let's get it now to move across, because the enemies will move down, so let's get this one now to move across. So what we need to look at is where we're going to place it on the screen. Now, I wouldn't do it right to the top, and I wouldn't do it right to the bottom. So we look at this sort of middle-ish area. So what we are going to do is we're going to use our set option. So I'm going to go back to sprites, and we are going to set position. And notice now it's going to give me an error saying there's no such thing as my sprite. There you are. So we're going to change that to collect, because that's the name of the sprite. And then we're going to use the random number generators again from the math library. So pick random, put that in there, and then pick random, put that one in there. So essentially now I'm going to change these values. So it's going to be 10 but 150. That's then the sort of area here. And then the sort of y-axis, which is going to be the area here, is I'm going to probably set it at something like 30 to 50. Now you can play around with these values as much as you like, right? And you can basically see how they work for you. Now, if I just play the game just to show you what's going to happen, right? This isn't final, but you can basically see then where these things are going to start appearing. So there you are, look, these are appearing all over in that area. Now, if we change this 30 to 50, let's say we go up to 80. Let's refresh the game for a second. You can see now they're appearing they're far closer to our little spaceship. So obviously, depending on how easy you want to make the game, will depend on how you want to change these variables, okay? Now the next thing we're going to need to do is, as you can see, these are all static at the moment. What I actually want is it to fly across the screen. So we need to set a velocity. And like we've done with the enemies here, where we've used the Vy, the velocity Y, we now need to use the velocity X option. So if I go back into my sprite, and we're going to use this one here, set my sprite, and again, change it to collect. We change this to velocity X. And I can either do it so it's choosing a random speed, or I can set a constant speed. So I'm going to set a constant speed with this one just to show you. So I'm going to put 40 in. And what we also wanted to do is automatically destroy events off the screen. So I'm going to scroll down here and get this one, and then change that to collect. We want it to auto destroy and turn that to on. Right, let's just see now what this is going to do. So let's play that. So we can see now these are just flying across the screen, and they randomly appearing and just flying across the screen, which is good. Now the downside is this 500 is way too frequent. So the maximum there, look, it looks to be 5 seconds or 5,000 milliseconds. But what we can do is I can manually type something in here. So if I do 15,000, even though it's not an option here, if I do 15,000, that's basically a game update every 15 seconds. So every 15 seconds, one of these is randomly going to appear. Now, again, you could, if you wanted to, put a random number generator in here, and you could really get it truly random. That's your choice. Now, that is the first part here. What we need to then do is we need to set the collision up. Now, essentially, if I collide with this, I want it to give me 1 health. So what we are going to do is click on the sprites, and we are going to use this, the overlaps again, which is the collision detection. So where we've got on sprite of kind player, other sprite is collectible. And what I want to do is, if I hit the collectible, I want to basically give myself a life. So I'm going to say change life by 1. Now notice it does a -1, just change that to 1. And then what we want to do is we want to destroy the sprite, otherwise it'll just keep on incrementing. So I'll go back to sprite and we look for the destroy. And then we change this one here from my sprite to collect, and we can put a little effect on it as well. Let's do, we'll do hearts then. There we are, nice little effect there. Okay, so let's see what that does. So let's play that. So every 15 seconds now this is going to appear. Let's shoot some of these, get some score up. 15 seconds is a long time. Oh gosh, I don't know if you just saw it. Now it just came on the end there. So let's wait now for the next part. Right, lovely. Okay, so I don't know if you just saw that. Now let me just stop this game for a second. But when I hit the sprite there, it added another score in. So that's great. Now there is one downside. If I was a little bit quicker, I'm just going to pause this for a second and make these sprites come on a little bit more often. The issue I've got at the moment is that if I were to shoot the sprite, essentially it destroys it. It doesn't destroy it, sorry. So what I want to try and do is have it so that if I accidentally was shooting and I accidentally hit, like I've done there, if I hit it, what I want to basically do is I want to destroy this sprite. Alright, so I basically want to destroy the health. So if I accidentally shoot it. So what we do is we basically going to use this sort of code block again. The only difference is if I go into sprite and we're going to look at this one here. And we are going to change a life by -1 this time. And we are going to destroy the sprite. So change the sprite of player. It's obviously a collectible, but this time, if the sprite wasn't a player, but it was the projectile, then basically we are going to take 1 life off our player. So if the projectile of this spaceship hits our little power up, then unfortunately we are going to lose a life. So it's really important that we actually hit these and get them collected. Now if you wanted to, you don't have to do the life here. You could actually do it via points. So if you wanted to, instead of saying change life, if I go back into the info here, you've got change score by. So I could essentially add in 10 points to my score, just as an example. Okay, your choice entirely. So a little bit of a longer task here. This is what I'd like you to do. Add in a on-game update, change it to however long you want. I'm going to stick to 15 seconds with this one. You need to add in the set collect block, change the variable name to collect, and then create a new kind called collectible, or whatever you want to call it. Draw your collectible sprite, set it then to pick a random number for position, and then set it to fly across the screen on the x-axis using velocity x, and then obviously don't forget to auto destroy. Once you've done that, then set the 2 collisions up as well. Okay, so pause the video now and add this last part in, please.